All new at 6 a.m., the final moments of Las Vegas visionary Tony Hsieh, an eccentric billionaire who went on an apparent downward spiral. 13 investigators have spent months compiling records that take us closer to the scene of Tony Hsieh's death in Connecticut.
And as our investigation, Tony Hsieh, the rise, the fall, the future continues this morning, investigative reporter Joe Bartels shows you the new findings.
Tony Hsieh was always an ideas man and never satisfied with traditional business customs or norms. But his quest for happiness took a dark turn during a brief and final stayover in New London, Connecticut. In this report you're about to see, the fire connected to Tony's death burned for a full 10 minutes before it was noticed. On the banks of the Thames River, about a 2-hour drive from New York City, Tony Hsieh and others had just returned from a Puerto Rico trip to the home of Rachel Brown, a longtime Zappos co-worker and friend of Hsieh's. But on the cold Connecticut night of November 17, 2020, Hsieh would not stay in the luxury 5-bedroom home, opting for a shed around the side of the house.
My understanding of why he went in the shed that night was because he had an argument with the owner of the home, and then he left the home and went outside.
Tony's staff was concerned for his safety. Temperatures dipped around freezing. At one point, staff noticed a candle had caught a small portion of a blanket on fire inside the shed, which Tony put out himself. According to this lengthy and detailed report from fire authorities, around 1 a.m. on November 18th, staff discovered Tony lit a plastic bag on fire inside the shed. An exterior security camera with audio helped investigators piece together what happened next. "You're going to smoke yourself out," staff told Tony. "That's poison," the camera's audio picked up. "It's poisonous, but I used it to light a fire," Tony replied.
Conversation with his staff, they brought in a heater because they thought he lit the fire to keep warm.
Fire officials say a propane heater, which gives off a tasteless, odorless, and in large doses lethal carbon monoxide, was brought into the confined shed to keep Tony warm.
It's an inappropriate place to use that. Those particular heating units, just from the nature of how they combust the propane, will produce carbon monoxide. So using it in an unvented area could be dangerous.
According to investigators, staff began checking in on Tony every 10 minutes. At 3:15 a.m., the report says the security camera picks up light smoke wisping from the shed door. Tony is seen putting the propane heater outside the shed. Then moments later, Tony brings the heater back inside, shuts the shed door, and locks it from the inside as thicker smoke and embers can be seen. At 3:20 a.m., Tony's brother Andrew Hsieh knocks on the shed door and tells him it's time to leave for a trip to Maui. Tony says to come back in 5 minutes, and Andrew goes back inside the house. A minute later, the carbon monoxide alarm begins to sound. At 3:22, the propane heater tank begins hissing and venting pressurized gas. At 3:24, Andrew Hsieh and staff realize there's a fire and the rescue attempt begins.
911, what's the location of your emergency?
500 Pequot Avenue. We need help as soon as possible. Someone's locked in a room with a fire.
The 911 call goes from calm to increasingly frantic.
Rachel. Rachel, they really need help. Is there a code to the storage room?
Okay, what's...
Tony's locked in there.
And the situation turns to panic.
Please hurry up. Please hurry up. This is urgent. This is
Yes,
really
ma'am, I
urgent.
realize
Please hurry
that.
up.
The fire department are all coming.
More 911 calls come in.
Hey, we're not getting a response from him.
Elizabeth, what?
We're not getting a response from him. Who is he? His name's Tony. I'm actually a nurse that traveled with him and gives him an ID.
Police body camera video shows smoke pouring from the shed and Tony being pulled from inside. He was rushed to the hospital where he later died. The report notes Hsieh was found about 3 feet from the door, and inside the shed there were several Whippet brand nitrous oxide chargers and whipping cream dispenser and a marijuana pipe and Fernet Branca liqueur bottles and several candles.
The interviews with the witnesses said Tony does enjoy candles, and that's been well reported. It reminds him of a simpler time in his life, is what the common trend on the answers to that was.
The report concludes the fire cause is undetermined.
There are 4 possible scenarios that could have developed into this fire. The first being a carelessly discarded smoking material. Second, there was a propane heater being used in the area of origin that was close to combustibles. Third, there were candles in the area of fire origin that could have caused the fire. And fourth, could have been a careless act or even an intentional act by Mr. Hsieh.
Police say they don't intend to file any criminal charges in the fire, and authorities say if new information comes to light, that might change. Authorities noted in their report that Tony Hsieh could have been intoxicated or impaired, and that could have prevented him from being able to escape. They are still waiting on toxicology reports and a final determination from the medical examiner. Now, even in Tony's death, he left a positive impression in Las Vegas. What the future holds, that's next. Joe Bartels, 13 Investigates.